Let me pin my video. Excuse my hair, it's still wet. So it'll dry as we talk. My hair, I always let my hair dry naturally. I'm a non-hair dryer kind of gal. Can't stand puffed up hair. Anyway, I'm gonna I'm gonna start by just having a quick look at something Kimberly mentioned in the group, because it's a good example of kind of a little bit more advanced energy regarding aspects. So Kimberly wanted to talk about the square to her between her moon and her sun. Hi, Barbara. So I said I would not pay too much attention to it. And, you know, it certainly is a square, and it's the only square in her chart. So it's probably got some impact. But there's two reasons why I would not really count the sun-moon square. It's what's called out of sign. So squares are always 90 degrees apart. So squares from, or, you know, close to, squares from Scorpio would be two planets in Aquarius, whereas the moon is in Pisces, so it's not strictly speaking a square. And so that's what an out of sign aspect is. Conjunctions, clearly always in the same signs. Sextiles 60 degrees apart. So do we have a sextile here? Yes, we do. So say the sun is in 27 degrees, and say there was a planet at 0 degrees of Libra. They'd still be very close to 60 degrees apart, but they would be out of sign. And again, it's kind of to the intuition whether you would really look at it in a reading. In a main reading, I probably would not be looking at this square because it's out of sign, because there's so much other good stuff going on too. The second reason I would probably not really pay too much attention to it is that if the sun and the moon were exactly square, the moon would be at 27 degrees Aquarius. Okay. And the moon moves faster than the sun. So the moon has moved on by 7 degrees because it went up to 30 and then plus 4. So 3 plus 4. And the moon is moving that way, away from the sun. So that's what's called a separating aspect. Now, I've talked about orbs, and applying aspects are where the faster moving planet is moving towards the degree the slower moving planet is at. Applying aspects are always stronger than separating aspects. Does that make sense? Kind of going into quite a bit more detail there. And this was a good example of it. Now, the square to Venus probably does bring the sun in a little bit, so she probably does feel it. Okay, so I'm just going to see the chat. Yes, thank you. Cool. Okay, and so because Kimberly's obviously going deeply into her own chart, she would probably want to pay some attention to it after paying attention to all the much stronger aspects in her chart. But those two reasons why I would not count it as much. Okay. Probably go to it last of everything in the chart. There's an awful lot more to talk about in her chart. Okay, so there's only 2 of you, so there's not going to be a lot of interaction. But we're going to look at your chart that you shared with us, Lorraine. Now, this week is going to be more about... oh, actually, there was one other thing I wanted to share in answer to Angela's question last week about aspects, transits. This is what you do. You get the birth chart in the middle and overlay the transits chart on the outside. There's also other ways of looking at what's happening in the transits. There's lists and things that you can create of exact dates and stuff if you have good astrological software. I do those usually when I'm doing a reading for people now, because I rarely just do a natal chart reading, because most people want to know what's going on a little bit. Casey, you just missed a bit about applying and separating aspects, but you can go back over that bit. So Angela did ask this. I don't want to focus on this because when you get to transits and progressions, that's level 2, and I will be doing that. But let me just highlight a couple of things. So you see, this is my natal chart in the middle, and there is my Saturn in Capricorn. And this Thursday, Saturn in Capricorn will be at the same degree and minute. I'm having the first exact of my Saturn return. So let me just highlight them. If it's highlighting, it's not. Well, I think you can see the circle if I hold it over. So that would be a conjunction by transit. So I'll just give you a quick overview of this, because level transits, you know, to learn in detail, they're really, that's level 2, that's the whole class. And I'm going to set up the page for that soon if anybody wants to do the level 2. And as level 1 people, you get a slight discount over the full price, and for signing up, you know, nice and promptly. So other ways you would look at squares, like I'm not drawing the lines on this kind of deliberately to try and get you to see it. So when I talked about aspects being in sign, mutable planets will always square other mutable planets. Okay. So right now as well, I have the transiting Sun and Neptune square to my Moon and Lilith over there. And sorry, I've got all these things on because I look at everything in my chart. And also square to my Jupiter and Pallas Athena. And by default, because they draws them all in, that would also be square kind of to my Mars and Sun. And if anybody else didn't notice, this is also the full moon on Thursday. So the moon is widely transiting my Pluto, but I'm going to include it because it's a full moon and because this is actually the full moon, the moon-sun opposition in mutable signs with Neptune involved as well, is all forming a grand cross with my planets. So if I was doing a reading looking at transits and progressions, which I usually do these days, they are 2 things I would talk probably about most of the reading about, because they're kind of huge. So I'm going through some huge shit at the moment. So I'm not going to look any more at transits and progressions, but that was kind of just to give you a feel of how we look at transits and progressions, because Angela did ask about it last week and I forgot to look at it. So really, this is the last official week, but we are having one more call next week. Yes, I will get those worksheets done to you. I'm just going through all this stuff at the moment, but, and I've been feeling under the weather the last few days as well, but better today. Lorraine, I don't know if you want to say anything about this in the chat or come off mute, because she asked a question in the Planetary Magic Cafe and things. Thank you, Barbara. Oh, it's just been weird viral symptoms. It's weird. But anyway, thought I was getting the flu, but I'm not. So yay. But Lorraine, do you want to say something about what you were going to ask? Because Lorraine asked about this being a mini reading. It's up to you how much you want to tell, but because I want this to be a chart reading class, yeah, go
on. So I saw Derek a couple weeks ago when I went back to the Northwest for a week, and I've known this young man since he was 2 years old. I'm his auntie, and I've always kind of helped him through stuff. When he was 4, he lost his father, and his father left him quite a bit of money, which started a feud between his mother and aunts to get custody of him for the money. And he was taken away from his mother, and now his mother is trying to take his children away from him. And I saw that Ceres was right on his descendant. So I asked him if I could do his birth chart when I was there. And the first thing I noticed was that his Sun and Lilith were opposite the lunar eclipse.
Yes, they were.
February 15th. And then I saw Ceres and Pluto right there on the descendant. And I wondered how, I could see all this stuff, but I just didn't know how to interpret it.
How many kids does he have? He's had kids very young. Yeah.
Yes, 2.
And why is his mum trying to take them away from him? Just wondered.
She went over to visit the grandkids, and the other grandmother was watching them, and she had to run to the store, and she asked her to watch them for a little bit. And while the grandmother that was taking care of the kids came back, Derek's mother had all their stuff packed up and was walking out the door with them.
Oh my God.
Saying that her house was filthy, that she was abusing the kid, that it was full of cockroaches, which none of it is true. Derek's mother's been a drug addict since she was a teenager, and always calling the police on everybody, always troublemaker.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all started.
Did he get to keep the money from his dad? Just interestingly.
The DHS.
Did Derek end up with any of the money?
No, because it was all spent by DHS. They hired a lawyer to follow him, and I started writing this story down, and I realized that it would have to be like an 820-page novel, like by John Irving. I mean, it's just so complicated.
Wow.
Everything that happened in this little boy's life, and it's still happening.
Wow.
And so.
Yeah. So just looking at it from a natal chart point of view, and then I can do a quick thing about these eclipses have affected him hugely, that's for sure. So, last August the 21st eclipse was exactly on his sun. So that's probably been causing a lot of trouble. But when you look at it from a natal chart point of view, there's kind of 2 ways into a chart. But I would start by, if you have not got Inner Sky by Stephen Forrest, if you want to start doing chart readings and you want kind of a step-by-step thing to do, his is a good way to start. He starts with the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. And this guy's a Leo, but in the 4th house. So he was kind of a little king, if you like, in the home in his early childhood life, with everybody wanting kind of wanting him, but they wanted his riches, it turns out. They didn't really want him. So it's, and the Lilith there as well, I would say, brings in some of the power plays and the difficulties with the women and the mother figure in his life. So that would be the Sun Lilith in the fourth house. And then you'd look at the moon, and the moon's in Scorpio, and the moon is often the mother. And Scorpio at its lowest incarnation can be manipulative and make power plays and things like that. Gemini ascendant, that's usually kind of him having to. I bet he's really sociable. Little, he's not so little now. A sociable kind of guy, really, who just wants to keep it light and doesn't want people to fight over him and things. I'm sure he just wants to kind of get on with his life and just have friends and that kind of thing. But that Pluto in Ceres is opposing his ascendant. I prefer to really, if I'm doing a natal reading, I prefer to follow the kind of ways that Jeffrey Wolf Green, Kai Pacha, that kind of side of evolutionary astrology that they study, where Pluto is the soul. Okay, so we'd first look at what your soul came in to incarnate. He's Pluto in Sagittarius generation, right at the start of it. This is the generation that's fighting for the Parkland kids. It's the ones fighting for gun control and fighting for their own freedom and their lives. Okay, so these are the ones coming of age, and they're really going to be a powerful generation for truth and true freedom, which I don't think we have in the USA. But anyway, that's political. But anyway, and so his soul is Pluto in Scorpio, but that's a generational thing. So then we look at where it is. Now it's in the sixth house, but it's right on the cusp, really, of his descendant. His birth time would only have to be off by a few minutes for it to actually be right on the descendant. So I would always jump to that when I look at his chart, first of all, and talk about Pluto, about power struggles with significant relationships in his life, with more his adult relationships, and how much sense does that make. Could I ask what happened to the mother of his kids, or is he still with her? Is that a good relationship as well? Because this kind of can imply power struggles with all his female significant relationships, to be honest.
He met his wife in high school. They've been together since then. She's disabled. Her mother is also a drug addict, so she was taken away from her mother also.
Okay, so it kind of plays out through her.
And she cannot take care of the children, is why her grandmother was helping taking care of the children. And most of the child rearing is put on Derek.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me that there's all kinds of manipulation and power, power struggles, and the Ceres conjunction to Pluto in conjunction to the descendant really ties into all that, with all the themes that we've heard about Ceres, about loss of children, about grief, about fighting to get them back. It's a theme that's probably gone on for generations, really, because Pluto is many lifetimes and many generations. And I would suggest that the fact he's right at the start of that Pluto in Sagittarius generation, and that it's right on the cusp, this is his lifetime to move. This is how we would read it. We look at the Pluto, we look at where it is, the kind of issues it causes, if you like, And then we look at what's called the Pluto polarity point, where he wants to get to in this lifetime. And that's Gemini, and that's his ascendant. And to my mind, this is about him learning through this lifetime to become empowered to speak up for himself and say no and speak truth all the time and say, this is, this is how I am going to be. This is my life kind of thing. This is not in an attacking kind of way, but it's in being empowered to speak up for himself and say, this is who I am. This is how I live. You don't get to say kind of what's happening over it. So I would say that's a huge part of his whole soul purpose. Now, how we get to the Pluto polarity point in this lifetime, okay, is to go through the moon's nodes. And he has the moon's nodes in Aries in the south node, and like I have. I'll go to that. Let me go through what we kind of go through, okay, and then we'll look at other things. All right. So, but actually the Saturn will probably come in here because it's conjunct the south node. So here's Saturn conjunct the south node in Aries, and Saturn is the father, and his dad died suddenly, I would take it, because Uranus rules. Uranus is up there as well in Aquarius, that rules this house, sudden kind of change and things. Saturn being part of his early life that kind of was left behind early on, if you like. And also with Saturn opposing Chiron, this is kind of the wound, and it's attached to his soul's evolutionary purpose in this lifetime. So his soul's evolutionary purpose is moved towards Libra in the house of children and joy and fun. Also in the house of women, his whole life lesson through these lessons with women in his life, through his wife's family line and his family line, are to develop better relationships with females in his life, and to bring healing. He's kind of the healing kind of component to all this. And if he finds his voice and is able to be a bit more of a mediator and negotiate between them whilst standing up for what he needs, it's going to bring huge healing for both him and for both his wife's family line and for his family line, because he's the key to healing there. He's kind of to become both the parent figure in both ways, in kind of the authority in the whole family line, to kind of step up and, I want to say the father figure, but not to father them, you know what I mean? But to kind of be this rock and go, no, I've got this sorted. This is my life. This is how I am working it. And I am bringing up my kids in a different way to how you were brought up or how I was brought up, to bring healing and to kind of break these patterns and to bring more balance into the whole family dynamic, if you like. Also add to that his but. So there's a big but. So one thing I didn't talk about with the moon's nodes, and I'll talk about it now through his chart, and this is going to get quite intense because, this is real kind of chart integration. If you see, so he can't get to this totally empowered voice kind of thing of saying, I am, this is me, and kind of that doesn't work for me without mastering this is kind of more um, the fighting energy he comes from, with people fighting over him, um, and in groups and things, and people going, no, that's not right, that's not the way it works, all this kind of stuff in the 11th house. And this is all about joy, fun, creativity, and balance in Libra. But he can't get to the Pluto thing without starting to master some of this North Node Chiron energy, and realizing that really kind of he's the key to healing some of these patterns and things. It's going to take great courage and strength, and this is the house ruled by Leo, and of course the word courage comes from the word French for heart, the French word for heart, cœur, courage. And so he's got to really find heart to be the rock that kind of balances it all out and doesn't let any of them manipulate and create anymore. So, but what I was going to say was skipped steps. Okay, he has skipped steps. And what are skipped steps, or the bendings they're called? They are planets that square the planetary nodes. Now, skip steps and bendings are described in different ways. Jeffrey Wolfgreen describes them as something our soul kind of ignores almost in order to rush to get to the other side, to get to where we're wanting to go. It's almost like we don't want to look at these squares because they're challenging, and it's something that we won't be able to get to our North Node's evolutionary purpose without looking at. Okay. Now, the closest skipped step, degree-wise, is clearly this Jupiter. It's exactly square to his nodes. And Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so it rules all this kind of energy. Jupiter's in Capricorn, and incidentally, that kind of indicates the inheritance from his father. Okay, that where it came from, but that's kind of an aside. At a soul level, this is kind of about Jupiter in Capricorn is kind of huge strength and rock, and wanting to build his own structures in his life, and wanting to really kind of create these deeply bonded relationships too in the 8th house, I'm going to say. If he can step into kind of being this patriarch, if you like, in the family, not in the worst sense of the patriarchal word, but being the patriarch in his family, where he kind of takes control of his own little family life and really sets boundaries, which is very Capricorn too, with other really significant bonds in his life. I'm thinking his mother. Then he will find it more easy to get to this point. It's not an easy chart because he has, I'll talk about these ones in a minute as well. He has these skip steps, and Pluto, so close to the ascendant descendant, is never easy. But he chose this. He's being really asked to step into really his own personal power, and to become kind of this negotiator, patriarch, leader who sets the boundaries, but in a kind way. I think of the Emperor Tarot card when I look at this. That's what he's being asked to be, kind of this benevolent patriarch in this whole family, who really controls all the crazy that's in the female line. But he's also got this skip step here to Cancer, to Venus and Mars. So because they're opposing the Jupiter, I think this indicates where he's also chosen to be the mother and father in the family, the female and the male influence in the family, in his personal family. He, I'm sure he loved his wife and everything, but at a soul level, he kind of chose her because that's his soul's path, and that he has to become both the more traditional kind of male patriarchal figure and the nurturing mother figure. Now, what does that make sense to what you know of him, Lorraine?
Thanks, Louise. This is really helpful because when I looked at the chart, I told him that it was really important. I mean, I could tell there was a lot of conflict going on, and I told him to keep his eye on what he wants his
Yes.
family to be, and
Yeah.
that it's going to be pretty rocky, but just always keep your eye on how you want it to be.
Yeah.
And he was so stressed out. I told him what he should do because he loves music, and I saw the Mars in the third house, and I thought that one of the ways that he could deal with stress and his anger is to sing
Oh, for
and write
sure. Yeah.
songs, and to write about what was going on and to sing to get through this time, but to never forget what he wanted in the future to look like.
And I would suggest as well, a lot of things that would help him with the stress is just playing with his kids, just shutting the world out and going to the park and not stressing at other times. I think having fun and joy and even singing with the kids, get them singing with him. Wasn't he for? I think that would help him a lot too, because this is the house of children. But if you're going to talk to him about it, in fact, feel free to share this recording with him. I know I say don't share the recordings, but this is a different matter. Just for this bit, if you want to, and just know that really this is kind of the key at this stage in his life. Okay. The eclipses have caused challenges, I think, to his home life, because this is the fourth house, the house of the home, and it sounds like his mum's challenging him, and all things like that, and this part of the power play too. But the key to him kind of getting to everything in his chart is to master both this being the mother, the nurturing principle, the mother and father, and really stepping into that in a big way. And it's not easy, but once he knows that and accepts it, his chart is strong enough and powerful enough that he could find joy from really owning that and setting these boundaries and saying, you are not having your say in my family. This is my family. So I hope it will help him. Will you let me know what he thinks to it?
Yes, I got to talk to him last night.
Cool. And there's other things I could say just looking at the chart things. So we would look at where the chart ruler is as well. And you talked about the voice, and there's the Mars. And yes, singing would be good if he loves music. But I see it coming from a place of him being the parent. I could almost see him, teaching the children how to play guitar or something and singing with them or whatever, and playing music and them all singing together, that being their family thing that he does. And also because his voice is his ascendant as well, Gemini. So does he like to write as well, or does he like to write music or songs or anything like that?
That I don't know, but I suggested it because of the Gemini ascendant.
Well, and Mercury in Virgo in the fifth house, very creative, very creative. He could be a songwriter if he wanted to be, if he chose to be. Because then he's got the Leo, wants to be on the stage a little bit anyway. And even if he just does it for a bit of stress relief, he could write little songs that he that make him a bit of creative outlet. So see what he thinks. Does he play any instruments?
He plays keyboard and guitar.
Oh, so he does. So he could write some songs. I think you were kind of on target with that Mars, but then when you look at the Gemini and the chart ruler as well, and there's something about Mercury and Virgo with writing notes with music, which is very kind of more the detail kind of thing. So if that resonates with him, probably a very good stress indicator. But he's meant to, his mission in life really, he's got Uranus in its own sign of Aquarius, very close to his midheaven, Aquarius. His mission in life is to really kind of break free and do things very differently and do things very much his own way. Some people think of this as a career, but it's way more than a career, really. It is like real your mission and how you want the public to see you. And he's got to really break free, because Saturn's the old ruler of Aquarius as well, and that's on his south node. He's got to break free of any kind of pressure to do things the way he is told things should be. He's got to really do things his own way. So your advice to him to get clear on how he wants it to look is very good, and in fact, just a little bit of journaling about that, about his core values. This was the 10th house, Barbara. The cusp of the 10th house, because Uranus is kind of close to the cusp of the 10th house, especially because it's in the sign that rules it. So, okay. So I was talking about looking counterclockwise, not clockwise. So yeah, Lorraine's advice to him to get clear on how he wants it all to look. Okay, it's fine. Just remember that there's the line, is the cusp, and it always goes counterclockwise or anti-clockwise for the British. Okay. So are you complete with Derek for now?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So I've picked a couple of charts at random, and I know some of you can't actually talk, so I want you to just feel free to type. But I just want you to look at the charts for a bit and have a think at just what jumps out at you. I was going to talk about one thing. I am going to point out when I look at this one is I was going to look at kind of aspect patterns a bit. And this, I've got too many things on this, but see if you can pick out any aspect patterns that and just generally look at the fact that she has such a splayed chart. Even if I took out the things we haven't looked at, some of these other asteroids, she's got enough stronger planets around the chart to say it's a splayed chart, which is very balanced. Yeah, I know there is a lot going on. But just see if you can pick, just, from a chart reading point of view, what would you look at? What would you look at first? What would jump out of you? What focalizers? What kind of things? And feel free to kind of just post things, random things in the chat. There's no, or the sun and moon in the 3rd house. Yeah, that's pretty important because there's 3 planets and there's the 2 luminaries. So I would say that's a stellium really in Taurus, even though stellium is often 4. But because it's got the sun and moon, I would say that's a stellium. And the sun and moon are always important. Cancer in the 5th. Just wonder why that's important. You. Ascendant with Uranus in 5th house. Ascendant ruler, is that what you mean? Yes, I think you do. Yeah. Now, That's that cusp thing. She does indeed. She communicates like a Taurus very much. But that's the thing about the cusps here, because I would really often more talk about those as a sixth house thing, especially with this whole thing because they're so close to that cusp. Okay. I would kind of think a bit of fifth house influence, but more sixth house with this chart. And why? Because it's so close in degrees, like it's less than 2 degrees. Uranus is less than 2 degrees from the cusp. B, because planets nearer the beginning of a house are usually important. And C, because this birth time thing, it's kind of a difficult one because people she is very intuitive. Yeah. And a healer. But she writes about a lot of deep subjects to death and things like that, and deals with them, okay, and talks with them. She's also a very good astrologer, even though she doesn't know it. With all that kind of stuff, she kind of is drawn to that world. I first met her in kind of an astrology group, actually, but she's not an astrologer, not practicing, but she feels the astrology, I would say, which is very Cancerian. So that's why she came to work with me, and I met her in a group I was doing some work in too. But so, yes, the chart ruler is always important, and conjunct Jupiter makes everything bigger. So she's kind of, and on the cusp of the sixth house, that's service. So she's kind of more, a motherly life coach guide, not officially a life coach. And she does it very much her own way. So there's that kind of the Uranus and the Jupiter in Cancer, the mother, and being of service, the house of mentorship. She's also very attached to animals and pets. Pets are the sixth house too. But she likes to do things very differently and has sudden turn of events with Uranus being her chart ruler. She was planning on traveling in a small home and things, and then suddenly found the house of her dreams and now lives in this little cottage in the woods. So talk about reversal of whatever. And big change. In her chart, Cancer rules it in her chart. Leo is the natural ruler of the sixth. Cancer's the rule. I'm sorry, of the sixth. I was looking at the fifth. Cancer rules her sixth house. Yeah. Things I would also look at. You pointed out that stellium. I would look at the ruler of that stellium. Look to see where Venus is. So Venus in Pisces in the second house, and that rules Taurus. So she, for somebody with that kind of look, kind of all coming together, I would say has a very deep intuition through touch and through nature and through feeling. It's not through particularly clairaudience and things. She could probably put her hand on you and really kind of feel what you're feeling, if you like. She's so empathic, this lady. She's lovely. So what else did we have to say? It goes deep with Saturn in Scorpio. Saturn in Scorpio, yeah, anything in Scorpio goes deep. But also her chart, no, that's not the chart ruler, that's Uranus. But hers is more, and she can go deep. She's not afraid to talk about deep subjects and be a bit of an expert on them. In fact, her latest blog posts are all about her mum dying, and she's not afraid to talk about her mum dying at all. But she's got Neptune up there as well, so spiritual truth on the cusp of the ninth house. Remember, we're always going counterclockwise, and when planets, so it would have a bit of, definitely have some eighth house influence, but it's also in Scorpio, which is in the ninth house. So I look at Neptune a bit eighth housey and a bit ninth housey. I'm afraid I'm not one who goes, yes, that's just because it's this slightly this side of that line, that it's in the fifth house, for example, looking at the Uranus. Looking at her Pluto, again, you know, some power struggles and manipulation in her relationships and things. She's unsurprisingly really divorced and chosen to be single at the moment. That could change. Pluto on the ascendant or descendant is not the easiest placement, but either way, because of course if it's on the descendant, it's opposing the ascendant, and if it's on the ascendant, it's opposing the descendant. But because Pluto's the soul in the astrology I practice, at least, it's usually a very intimidating soul. Somebody, even if other people have kind of had tried to manipulate her and had power over her, it's often because they feel intimidated by her, if that makes sense. Even though she's a deeply compassionate and beautiful person, she is strong and powerful, and many people can find that a bit intimidating. So Pluto on that line, as we saw with Derek too, can indicate problems. But it also is very good for personal empowerment. As I say, there's always the high road, the low road of every sign. So I see my job as an astrologer really is not only to help people to deeply understand themselves, but also to help them see how they can harness the energies to be the highest, and because I try to avoid words like best and better, but to be the highest incarnation of their energies that they can, because that leads to personal fulfillment and strength. It doesn't mean it's better, it just brings you awareness and helps you to live a kind of higher conscious life. All these terms are so some of them have become so problematic though. You know, all this higher consciousness stuff, it just means you're more aware, you've kind of started to pay attention, you've had doing the work to try and be this highest incarnation of you. You're trying to actually learn your soul lessons rather than being kind of down in the unaware kind of stage and state. And in fact, I should have read that to you. I might try and find it in a minute. Jeffrey Wolf Green's Stages of Consciousness. That would really help you with evolutionary astrology. So, you know, I would look at also at her nodes, because I would look at her Pluto, and clearly her Pluto polarity point, she is meant to kind of live alone and live very differently, and she even, I don't know if you see her name at the top here, Zen, she renamed herself and calls herself that, and kind of lives her very own lifestyle. So very indicative of kind of stepping out and being very much more Aquarian. Okay. I would look at the nodes too if I was looking at her chart, because that's how she gets to the Pluto polarity point. I would look at the ruler of the nodes too. The south node is ruled by Mercury. So she has Mercury Gemini south node right at the end of the fourth house. So a bit fifth housey, I would say too, even though it's different signs. Again, I would kind of look at a bit at both. With this one, because it's not in the sign of the fifth house, I would say it's slightly pulled more back to the Gemini. So I just want to kind of go over and over those kind of cuspy kind of things, because they're a bit, again, it's practice, practice, practice. See what feedback you get from people, and you will kind of figure out for yourselves what's significant and what isn't over time. It's hard to really explain every scenario in any class. I know a couple of you listened to that podcast I posted with Chris Brennan and the female astrologer whose name I've forgotten, talking about how they got going and how they actually kind of developed their business practice as an astrologer and what it kind of took. And they kind of were saying the same thing as me, really, that, you know, you just have to get started. You have to get started doing readings, and you have to start. It was in the group, the class group, Barbara. Yeah. If you look back, yeah, it was a podcast. By the way, if you're in one of these class groups, I always suggest checking get all notifications, or for the time you're in a short class like this, and this is not just my classes, kind of making it a favorite group so that it's at the top of your profile on Facebook, so you see a little number that there's been new posts in there, so then you'll know there's things to look at. But her moon's nodes, clearly she is to find personal freedom and truth, and in a public way, and she has. Yeah, I know, that's why I'm giving you a little hint and a tip of how to do it, because I see that it's probably a little late because we're at the end of the group, but I see that you've struggled to find calls and things sometimes. If I'm in a class that I'm paying for and it involves a Facebook group, I always make the Facebook group a favorite group, because then it appears at the top, and I get all notifications on the group, and then I find I don't miss things when it's something I'm paying for and I don't want to miss. So, because otherwise there's so much noise on Facebook, which is my latest thing with all this Pisces energy, and because I'm being Neptuned, those Neptune squares that I showed you, I am just like, take me away from all this noise. So I'm finding ways to just only go to the parts of Facebook that I want to go to. So there is, and I'm reducing it at the minute. So I know I've made Neptune into a verb, because I am being Neptuned, and I have been for some time. But it seems to be really kicking in, Bridget. I don't know if you saw my chart at the start. I'm just going to show it again. Because I think this full moon being right on my Saturn return this Thursday is just meaning I'm going no and shut the noise out and be quiet and fingers in the ears and unfriending people. It's kind of funny, but and I'm having a lot of long salt baths, and you know, it's not that I feel bad or anything. I feel fabulous, actually. So what we're going to do now, instead of me just talking all the time, is I really truly just pick these at random. So I'm going to turn my video off for a little bit. I'm actually going to put a drum track on in a second. And I'm doing exactly what I need, and that's to me the value of knowing the astrology for yourself and for everybody, is because you can know why you feel like this, and you can adjust accordingly. I pulled a card as well, incidentally, guys, for this. Let me stop the share for a second. I pulled a card for myself this morning and for this, and I got this. So I got the Hermit. So that's what I've got to be a bit at the moment. I've got to be a bit of the Hermit. But anyway, so I have picked another, and I know these clients won't mind me using their chart. I've deliberately blocked out their details on it. So I'm going to share the chart again, and I'm going to play some drumming music, and I kind of want you to not close your eyes and journey this time, but you may close your eyes now and again. But I want you to look at this chart. I want you to take some notes while the drumming's happening. I don't want you to overthink it. I really want you to start getting the feel for the astrology, okay? And I want you to take some notes and either copy and paste them in the chat or come on and talk out loud and just say what you see in this chart and what you would kind of do in a natal reading. Don't get panicky about it. Don't get nervous about it. There's no, I'm not going to go, no, that's wrong. I might give you some more suggestions and things. Or if it's in, if you're still looking at the kind of the house is wrong or something, I'll gently point out where it actually was. But I don't want you to feel like you're being tested, because you're not. I just want you to practice. It's all going to make you practice. So I'm going to turn my video off and put this drum track on for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and I want you to tell me what you think of this chart. And I'm going to the bathroom while I do it. Okay, so hang on, let me stop the music. Away. Alrighty. So hang on, let me turn my video back on. Lorraine's written some stuff good for you. Let me hang on. Okay. And Charles. Do the screen again. Okay. Rule of ascendant is Moon in Leo. Down to earth mother. She's a very fun mother too in Leo. Very fun. Sun in second house, beauty. I'm not sure I get that, but I would say, you know, very fun kind of character with all that second house Leo, and she is. She's always laughing and things. Not to say that she doesn't have a hard time. Okay, midheaven. Now, because Aries is at the top of the chart, you still have to, because I don't use a whole sign one, I would say you have to look for the thicker line and the arrow or the words MC, depending on what your software is, okay? Because her midheaven is actually Pisces. She has Aries right at the top of the chart in the 10th house, but it's intercepted. It's not on an angle. So her midheaven is actually Pisces. So I think she has a bit of a push and pull actually regarding getting things started. Jupiter opposite Mars. Yeah, I'd say that's a significant aspect for sure. I'd say Saturn sitting on her ascendant, as Faye said, is really important. Yeah. And she actually has taken on the role of both parents too. She's a single mom by choice. The father was kind of, let me turn that back, kind of not very responsible. So she's taken on the responsible side. So spot on there. She's had to kind of take on that theme again because it's in Cancer. So it's kind of being the father and the mother and take on that role for her beautiful kiddos. Leo, Sun, Moon, Mercury conjunction. Yeah. She was born under a new moon. Actually, I'm sure you meant that because I'm sure you know the conjunction's a new moon. yeah, I would say she's probably has a hard time self-reflecting. She's yeah. I'm just reading, sorry. Uranus Chiron opposition, how that might get played out in their life. It's connected to the Cancer ascendant and Saturn somehow, but not sure how. Okay, well, to go back to kind of last week, Uranus Chiron opposition is kind of a generational thing, generation of healers that we've got. Hers is exact, okay? You feel it's connected to the Cancer ascendant. I'm not sure how either, to be honest, to be quite honest. I mean, she is, she's kind of a real typical Pisces midheaven. She does psychic readings and things and tarot and stuff like that as to earn her money, and also makes jewelry. So she's very playful. She doesn't her mother is being a mother is the primary role, but her work is very playful. She doesn't like serious things, even though psychic readings can be serious. Hers is a more kind of a dramatic, playful kind of thing, bringing in all that Leo drama stuff. She's definitely had some Pluto family stuff for sure, and moves and changes, transformation in where and how she lives. The Uranus, Chiron opposition, because Chiron's in her 10th house, the fact that she has chosen to work as a healer is very significant. The home strong, Barbara's strong second house. The fourth house is more the home. Okay. So I'd say she is her castle really in the second house. It's like she's very self-contained, because the fourth house is really the home. The second house is more about self-esteem, self-worth. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is the Rainbow Bridge, but I told you last week you're going to see it coming up in lots and lots and lots and lots of charts. Chiron opposite. Yeah. They're not really connected by sign or anything. I'm just kind of wondering how we connect Chiron in Aries to Cancer AC, really. I don't know. I mean, not saying they're not connected at all, but they're not connected by aspect or sign or anything. Yeah, true. Yeah, that connects it a little bit, I think. I could also say, she's really stepping into the generation. Second house is Taurus. Okay, yeah, is ruled naturally by Taurus, but that's more about kind of self-esteem and home as in your body, not as in the physical bricks and mortar home. Okay, that's more the fourth house. Wherever I lay my hat is my home, could be the one. Sorry, Bridget, you're getting Saturn on the ascendant in aspect to Jupiter. Yeah, there has been some kind of repressed parts. It was more repressed by it kept kind of played out by picking men that held her back, if you like. So it can come from without or within. Okay. She picked men that really kind of kept their finger on it, even though they weren't responsible and weren't actually doing the job of being a parent and husband. They kept her down, and once she really decided to step out of that and kind of become her own authority, things have changed dramatically in her life. Yeah, she did her. Usually Pluto in the fourth house, so close to the beginning of the fourth house, is early traumatic experiences. She's had sexual abuse and things, and it very often indicates sexual abuse. Yeah. So Barbara, I'm still very sharp mind. New moon as well. So Sun conjunct Mercury and Moon conjunct Mercury, really very sharp mind. But I'm still a little confused, Barbara, where the home is castle with Leo, because Taurus. Let's see if I can find the sheets with the house descriptions on them. I did have them here, and I do. To see what words I gave you. So the second house is resources, self-confidence, what you value, relationship to the body and the natural world, and the attitude towards possessions and having and how you make your money. The fourth house is the home, the type of home you prefer. The home, that's what I get more home is castle with strong fourth house. If she had all those three planets, the sun, the moon and Mercury in Cancer, I would definitely say the home is her castle. You're welcome. But the second house, I would say she kind of is her home. When she is there are. You're welcome. There's so many parts and pieces. That's why it takes practice. And that's why I gave you numerous handouts, which you will get the last ones before we finish. Even if I keep the group open until I've got them done. Sorry, all this Neptune stuff is like going like that. Yeah, soaking, marinating, but don't just sit and soak and marinate. Actually practice, kind of. Even if you say to a friend, hey, can I just write a few notes about your chart? Would you be open to it? Let me know what you think soon. All right, so I want to do the opposite transits, oppositions, or all opposite transits. Oppositions are a point of tension. To my mind, oppositions usually indicate a need for integration and things, to kind of come to the middle, to draw both things in. Oh, there's a huge second house significance. Yeah, because new moon in Leo and Mercury. It's kind of really all about. She's quite sexual in her dress. I don't mean I don't mean anything offensive in a way, but she's just very body conscious and very like showy in a nice way. Mars Jupiter opposition, what would I say about that? I would say that she has probably some with Mars and Jupiter, especially Jupiter and Pisces, she has some that are all. Yeah, they are opposite and square. Everything's an opportunity for growth. Oh, what's that phrase they say? Another effing growth opportunity. But Mars Jupiter opposition. Sorry, I'll go back to it. Well, Jupiter's very strong in Pisces because it's the old ruler of Pisces, and it's also in the ninth house, which is ruled by naturally by Sagittarius. So Jupiter is very strong. And with Mars down there in Virgo, I'd say this is a very nice opposition for oppositions, really. Jupiter in Pisces is a big connection with the muse and big connection with higher truths and all kinds of things like that. Mars in Virgo in a house that's ruled by Mercury, because it's a house in Gemini and Mercury rules Virgo too, I would say gives her actually a bit of drive and energy to bring this mysticism down to earth and to organize it. She makes a very good practical mystic. So that's what I would say is the good side of her Mars-Jupiter opposition. And I tend to only really talk about more on the side of the good sides of these things when I do readings, because I want to encourage people to move towards that rather than going, oh, this is awful. This is where your challenge is. And then people just hear the word challenge and they get stuck in it being a challenge. And so I might briefly mention the challenge and then mention the higher incarnation. Because when people hear the word challenge or, oh, you're going to have major difficulties here, guess what happens? They get stuck in it and they have major difficulties. So I'm going to play some. That happened to you? Did somebody give you kind of a negative reading and you kind of got stuck in what was the challenges? Going, oh, this is going to be so hard. Yeah, people hear it, even if they're trying not to. You know, I think we have a great responsibility. You know, because with all challenging aspects, there comes the great growth opportunity, as Barbara said. And I prefer to give people the effing growth opportunity. All right, so I'm going to play music again because I really want you to practice. So I'll play a little different one this time. And I'm doing the journey music deliberately so you kind of let yourself flow into the chart. So I'm hoping you let yourself do that. I'm going to do another chart, okay, with 2 music. Just because I'm going to make you practice. Here's the chart. Okay. Oh, let me have a look at what you've said. So, Lorraine, yeah, you kind of picked out some key bits, but what does it mean? Okay, Barbara. I know this person quite well, by the way. I've done a lot of readings with them, so not a lot of water. I think they will have a strong career, Barbara. They're quite young, so not quite got there yet. But because it's not just the career house, he is in service with a strong passion. This young man is gay, and he is involved in organizing pride and things, which is definitely service and strong passion, and it's also got that creative element. So whether that will become a career for him or not, but he's highly involved in organizing pride, not just being a part of it where he lives, that is. So yeah, so I think it's great that you're pointing out what's significant, but what do you think it means, Barbara and Lorraine? He has strong personal passion, Bridget, and it's based around the fact he is gay and that he was bullied in school, and about not being kept down and being a bit of a leader in the Pride gay community in his career. I think he is hardworking and analytical, and he will be more so as he gets older, Faith. So Venus in Leo with South Node. North Node's in Leo, yeah. So that's where he's headed towards. South Node, South Node in Aquarius, and conjunct the ruler of Aquarius. I would say he's been almost persecuted for being different, and he was very much bullied in school, which is kind of where I came in. Oh, my messages have gone funny, so hang on a second. That's all right. No. But he is big. He's got a big personality. And yeah, for sure. Yeah. But they're also very deeply private as well. Mars, Scorpio rising. And the Mars in Scorpio, yeah. We won't talk too much about that, but there's some wounding around it with the Chiron there as well, I would say. And yes, wounds around the self because of him being gay and having to come out in a community where it was very difficult, to be quite honest. Pluto and Black Moon Lilith in the past. Oh yes, yeah, spot on with that. And also they're on the cusp of the second, the Pluto and Black Moon Lilith conjunct in Sag. So I would say that's more about his self-esteem and self-worth and embodiment of his personal kind of self-transformation and power. So again, that's a good example of the cusp. I would more read that second house, but it's still good reading. Mars Chiron conjunction. The gift is in the wound. Yeah. Centered around self. Yeah. Very good. Uranus on the IC, unusual family of origin. Not so much unusual as that he was definitely a square peg in the round hole in the family of origin. Very definitely, and bullied and had a hard time. Yeah, I think the eclipses have affected him, but in a positive way. So So in other words, the other way around, South Node in Aquarius, that's kind of where he's coming from. But the thing about the nodes, and that's a good example again, is that we're not to do away with the South Node or to make it wrong in this lifetime, okay? It's just, it's the unhealthier parts of the soul habit, the South Node. You're there to loosen their grip on us. There is a part where we are here to integrate the South and the North Node, really. It's just that the North Node qualities are quite alien to us. And I don't know if I've even got my video. Oh, I have. That's all right. And so the North Node's quite alien to us. So that's things we have to develop in this lifetime. And then the kind of worst qualities, like feeling the outsider, things like that, of the South Node that loosen the grip on us. But ironically, it's by getting to know those soul habits and South Node qualities that they loosen their grip on us. It's all down to awareness again. You know, astrology brings us deep awareness. It doesn't make anything wrong to my mind, because it is what it is. You chose it. Yeah, you get the idea. Moon Jupiter conjunction in Taurus in the 6th. See, again, cusp, moon right on the 7th house cusp. I would read them more as 7th house again. He's more about relationships. Okay. Than health, I would say. Yeah. Spot on with the Saturn in Taurus, I'd say. Yeah, for sure. I suspect he's going to have kind of multiple relationships with Jupiter coming up to that so much, but he's very emotionally connected to being in a relationship, really. Spot on. But spot on about the personal passion stuff as well in the 10th house. It's always going to have some kind of a creative element to it. And if you think about pride, you know, pride is all about kind of having fun and celebration and saying I'm here for the LGBTQ community. Whether that will become his ultimate career, I don't know, but that's kind of what he's been doing for a while. All right then, everybody. So we kind of started looking at good. I will say, don't be nervous. It is fun. Astrology's all great in theory and things, and you can read books and read books and read books and think you need to know more. But once you just trust and look at what leaps out, I always think the client hears what they will need to hear as well. That doesn't mean I'm making it up. It means I don't have to pick out every part of a chart. I pick out what jumps out and what seems most prominent based on the rules, yes, but then in a way it's kind of letting go of the rules too. And even if you keep it kind of simple on the Sunday readings, Faye, and just talk about the main bits, there's a tendency, and if you listen to that podcast that I shared, it's a bit long, they do like to talk for ages, but keep stopping and starting it while you're doing your cleaning or something. There's a tendency amongst astrologers when good. And next week we're going to do a bit more of the same, and with questions. She will do great. But there's a tendency to think you have to cover every planet. And do I journey? Yeah, I kind of do. Yeah, I get the charts usually a day before or a couple of days before, and I sit and look at them. And then I'll look at them just before I go to sleep sometimes, and I'll listen. And then sometimes I'll formally journey on them. But I let them soak into my body a bit. I don't sit and scrabble notes. And don't think you have to talk about everything in the chart, every planet. My first astrology reading I had by my teacher, and I have to say I've kind of broken away. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't sit and look at them for a long time. I'll kind of look at them for a bit and then go off and let them come in. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, don't worry about it. Um, there are, Lorraine, that's a whole other class. Usually to the rising sign, and Leos, like Leos generally have a really good head of hair. Capricorn energy or Capricorn rising often has a very kind of dull, stony face, if you like. There's different, yeah, there's a lot of different physical attributes assigned to signs. Yeah, Barbara's right. You draw the boundaries. Say, you can listen in and listen, but, let's not turn this into a big chat fest kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, I've done readings with people together though, just two people, not big groups, apart from like this kind of thing. Um, it's up to you, Faye. Do what kind of sounds right. Okay, if they are very close, they don't know each other very well. They said, "Oh well, that's kind of a bit weird then that they don't know each other very well." Because some of the things that come up in readings make people cry, and it might be something about their past that they didn't want to really talk about. Hmm. I think they feel it's a bit more fairgroundy. Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of a bit difficult, Faye. Yeah, only you can decide on that one, but I don't think I'd let them make the rules, to be honest. And yeah. Oh, I've hit nerves with readings. I've made people cry. They're like, oh, somebody sees me from my childhood. And I'm not mocking. This is the actual thing. They go, oh my God, you see me. How did you know that all that happened? And it's finally like somebody sees them, and they need to be alone to do that. It depends. I've never experienced your readings, Faye, but from from the bit you put up there, you're seeing some of the deeper stuff. So really, it's your choice, but I'd be a bit tempted to say I'm not comfortable with that. You can share your recordings if you choose to. Yeah, I can, absolutely. I've got the chats from all the recordings, but this one you've asked for, so I will post it. It saves as a thing. Oh, what kind of divination? Hmm. People, why would I? Oh, why would somebody say that to somebody? I don't understand. I think anybody has the potential. Firstly, to know what makes and I'm getting your chart up. I was going to say goodbye, but this has pissed me off, so I'm going to get your chart up. I think anybody can make a good astrologer. Blimey, I'd have to find all the other ones. Okay. Oh, really? Oh, going forward. Yeah. Yeah. I think this one's probably more useful because mostly the chats were just kind of chats. Really, I've tried to previously read the questions, but this was more readings. So this one is really useful. So I will post this chat. Faye, it's up to you. you look at your chart. Let's look at your chart. You have Aquarius on the midheaven. Oh. I think anybody can make a good astrologer, and maybe, I think a diviner would have to have a real, I'm just about to share your chart, would have to have a really good knowledge of what astrology is and how it works in different ways. There's many different ways of using astrology. They've probably got a real kind of, if they're into divination and psychic reading, they're probably got an idea of astrology as being more predictive. That's the feeling I'm getting from it. And remember, I don't really do predictive astrology. So, yeah. It depends on your question too. If you just ask, will I be a good astrologer? What is a good astrologer? What kind of astrology are they doing? There's all different ways. I would not pay too much heed on that. For God's sake, there's usually strong Aquarius or Uranus is often involved in a chart where people are astrologers. Other ones, there's a lot of Capricorn astrologers, there's a lot of Sagittarius astrologers, but you've got a strong Uranus and Mercury connection there that's opposing your midheaven, and your midheaven is in Aquarius. There's every astrological indicator that you could use astrology. The thing is, astrology is used in so many different ways. You can just do readings, or you can incorporate it into your art like you do, and there's different sorts of readings. What sort of readings would you say you do, Faye, when you do them? Because you're already started to do them. Do you do just natal chart readings, or do you look at kind of more the healing aspect of the astrology? So the more therapist kind of energy? Yeah. I'd stick with it. I think if it gives you bliss and happiness and people are coming to you for readings and they're getting stuff out of it, ignore what the woman says. Or the card reader, I assume it's a woman. I don't like those long distance readings anyway. I'm just choking. Yeah, but you'll do more. Now you've started. Sorry, I'm just choking on my gum. Personally, I would return that card reading to sender with consciousness and feel that I feel there's some point of view coming from their reading about what a good astrologer is. Me too, Bridget. Well, and I pull my daily cards, but and I'll do those mini readings. But I like Barb, like Lorraine asked me if a mini reading would work for the chart we did at the start. I said no, I don't think it. I think it's too deep for that. Too much for Derek's chart. For me to just do a mini reading. Mini readings, I will do them and I will pull cards, but I will be careful how I answer them. Because a lot of it's free will. So just keep going, Faye. I think the things you put in the chat today, I think, yes, you got the nodes mixed up, but we all do that at times. We all get things a bit confused, especially when we're being Neptuned, because Neptune's so powerful at the moment. But that's nothing. It was kind of what you got from it and the interpretation that I thought was really good. Really accurate, really kind of helpful. So, yeah, me too. So I'm going to say goodbye to you all. It's been 2 hours. I always go, oh, this is going to be a shorter call. And it never is. But I'm glad so many of you turned up. And talking of cards, let me pull everybody a general card. Just for, oh, this is this little deck I've got. So this is the door. And unsurprisingly, these are new to me. So this is opportunity, entering new situations in life and choices. So there you go. That's for you guys. It's up to you. There's the door. It's up to you if you want to open it and step through. You're welcome, Barbara. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. I'll get the recording up. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry, Faye. It's fine. I'm surprised I was on time. Neptune at the moment. All right. See you later.